This is what we call cosmic authority. This is the restoration that, at the beginning in the journey of the whole process in Christmas, the Advent, is that Jesus chooses to yield. Jesus chooses to limit himself. Jesus humbles himself. Jesus becomes the man of sorrows. Jesus becomes the suffering servant for the purpose too. Paul says in Corinthians that, he was rich and he became poor. So through his limitation, through his poorness, not poverty, now we become rich. So again, this whole experience for me, the Great Commission, as much as we are, and we should, go and make disciples, go and tell them everything that he taught us, is based on the authority of someone else. That's all that I'm trying to say. Once again, you got to read the text. You got to explain the text. So let's talk about how we are going to get the, what is it that he said, which in this case, we got to read the text. And then what does that mean? So here are some of the things that I got from Dr. Bob's commentary that really helped me and forces me to keep in mind the 35,000 overview of the entire text. Because I'm going to say it again. This is my tendency on Sundays, as I prepare a sermon, my tendency is I want to make it helpful. I want to make sure that people perceive it helpful and perceive it relevant. The Bible is always relevant. I want to make sure that it's perceived with relevancy. And my concern is I want to make sure that everybody gets it. But again, that desire, which I think is natural and is normal and should happen, must come from where the authority is found. And the authority is found precisely on the only person that is inspired, which is, in this case, the human author. So a couple of things about the author. Speaking of Luke, he is a Gentile and a second-generation Christian. To me, that's extremely important when I preach through Luke, or in this case, through chapter 2, which means that this is someone who did not see or know Jesus during his earthly life. He is second generation into the experience. So this is extremely important for multiple reasons. And I'm going to include that on my preaching and my teaching. I'm not telling this on Sunday, right? I didn't mention this on Sunday to the church. This is just my preparation. Luke's gospel emphasizes Jesus' love. Here we go. Jesus' care for those whom the Jewish leaders never even noticed. So as I'm reading chapter 2, I'm thinking of this components. I'm thinking through these lenses of the factual things of who the author was, because again, it's a combination of the author of the Bible, which is the Holy Spirit, and then the human author, which the human author, within the inspiration, he's still a human, meaning that he's still confined to these elements that we just described, second generation Christian. And then in this case, the focus that he's put in basically on the narrative that in this case, Luke as the inspired person is bringing is that he's emphasizing the love and the care that Jesus had or has for the people that the Jewish community did not even, or Jewish leaders didn't even pay attention to. A couple of examples. Here we go. Women. Luke is going to focus on women. He's going to focus on the poor. He's going to focus on the socially and racially and religiously ostracized. This is huge. This is huge how the narrative is unfolding. And again, chapter 2 is going to illustrate that. So in my mind, I'm keeping those things. Those are some of the lenses that I have to bring into the conversation because again, my tendency is to look through the lenses of who I am in a 21st century, environment as a middle-aged guy and all that. And again, those things will come into place. But right now I'm looking through the lenses. I'm doing my very best to look through the lenses of who wrote this book. Hello, BLI family. Thank you so much for allowing us to be a part of your ministry through the teaching and preaching resources completely free of Bible Lessons International. I'm speaking of our written commentaries, our audio, and our video commentaries where you guys can find it basically translated into 48 languages. I want to celebrate with you the goodness of the Lord because of all the downloads that all of you make possible through our Bible Lessons International app. If you don't know what I'm talking about, if you can just go to your iPhone or your Android, go to your device and download the app Bible Lessons International. It's going to give you instant access to all of our resources for your development and your growth into the image of Jesus. The app is also going to give you the opportunity to make a contribution, a love offering, to Bible Lessons International. You can also, if you're not using the app, you can also simply text to the number of 833-892-7771. Let me say it again. It's 833-892-7771. Thank you for your support. Thank you for your prayers. And we love you very much. God bless. A couple of things when it comes to these people who are socially, racially, and religiously ostracized. We're speaking of immoral women, the Samaritans, lepers, tax collectors, even criminals and rebellious family members. How about the poor? We mentioned the poor already. And Gentiles. Now, he's a second generation Christian, but he is a Gentile himself. And Luke is reminding them. Here's the bottom line. He is recording all of these eyewitness memories and historically is believed from Mary and also possibly her genealogy. And again, there is a reason why he's writing the way he's writing. There's a reason why he's focusing on this distinctiveness, uniqueness within the message of Jesus Christ. Now, once again, because he is inspired, he gets to do that. He gets to focus on specific things. And this has to do primarily with the inspiration, what he's receiving from the Holy Spirit, and then the human component of, if in this case, he is interviewing and he's recording, he's documenting from eyewitnesses, and then keep this in mind. Now he's focusing also on the audience. Who is he speaking to? I think those factual things truly matter when it comes to the interpretation, in this case of chapter 2 of the Gospel of Luke. His gospel is based on interviews and research. Historian, and this is what he does. Now, the other thing is, which I just mentioned to you, he is targeting Gentiles. Now, just a quick thought on the target audience or recipients. We call it recipients also. Back in the day, before social media, the way we did pictures, and many of you remember that, some of you may have to Google what I'm about to say, we used to have printed photo albums. And on photo albums, because printing pictures, and even today, is expensive, and it was expensive back then, but we used to print those pictures, and we used to put them on photo albums. So when it comes to the Gospels, just those 4 Gospels between Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, I want you to think that they are not the history of Jesus, but the stories of Jesus. So on a photo album, or even social media, on a photo album, if you had a quinceañera, you had a wedding, you had a baby dedication, whatever type of festivity or event, a graduation, and you took a bunch of pictures, you typically didn't print all of the pictures. Even I'm thinking when you had a wedding, and this is growing up where I come from, you hire a photographer, and the photographer actually show you, the pictures and say, which one do you want to print out? Well, I think the Gospels, that's exactly what they are. I think the Gospels to me are photo albums that in this case, these individuals, which are the only people inspired in Bible study. You're not inspired. I'm not inspired. This is why we don't begin with application. This is why we begin with the text and we begin with the explanation, which to me is what the author said and what the author meant. And then we move into application. Now you and I get to say and see, okay, what does that mean to me? I don't mind you saying that, but that's going to be at the end. That's going to be the result of what God said and what God meant through these people. So in this case, once you get into this experience of seeing the Gospels through these photo albums, you have to ask yourself, why is it that in this case, Luke is using or choosing these pictures of the life of Jesus Christ? Why is that? Why did he put this? Why did he omit this? Why he never mentioned that? Whatever the case may be. And this is why we got to look at who is he writing to. Because again, if you were to send a picture today, the picture that you choose to send is going to determine who are you sending it to. So in this case, we understand historically that Luke is actually targeting or putting those pictures for Gentiles.